Hi everyone, I'm Ashutosh from ProdEgyIAS. Today we don't know what lecture this would be. This is more of an impromptu, spontaneous video intended towards the beginners for the UPSC. Aspirants who are just starting off or who have just thought of starting for the civil services preparation, especially keeping public administration as one of the important optionals on their endeavor for UPSC. We all know PubAd is one of the most popular optionals and infamous both. It is quite a dilemma, a paradox, that an optional which is so popular, right, and still so infamous. So there must be something about it, right? You can't have both these things together at the same time. But see, it brings into the limelight a very important perspective, very important idea. Just like human behavior, which has two aspects. Broadly, it has multiple aspects, no doubt. But broadly, human behavior has two aspects, good and bad. Virtuous and viceful. Righteous and at the same time corrupt. Both. So every optional, every subject, every arena of study has both the dimensions, good and bad. Now, which one you want to choose, right? What is your choice? Is it the looking at the glass half full or looking at the glass half empty? Now, it is up to you. Because for a student of or an aspirant of UPSC or a person who wants to develop his career into public services, into managing the affairs of the state, you're not going to do a mean task. You're not going to do a usual routine job. This is going to be the journey of a lifetime. This is going to give you a bigger experience, probably, than someone climbing the Mount Everest. That's a thrill, that's an experience on its own, no doubt. But this probably will be more thrilling, right? The process itself and obviously the job itself that you want to pursue. And I would not use the word job, it's more of a career, it's a service. So, what is public administration in that sense? That's why I said it is up to you how you're going to view the subject. If you're viewing it from the perspective of number of people appearing, number of selections, top ranks, then if you take the decade or 15 years of data, PubAd will probably surpass all the other optionals. But obviously, as human memory is short, let's not take that 15 years data. Let's take 5, 6 years, 7 years data. And then also its performance is not bad. I would not say extraordinary, but nothing equal to ordinary as well. Better than that. Above average would be an appropriate word. But yes, obviously, a lot of new students, new people, aspirants, wannabe aspirants, they all somewhere look for a kind of, basic analysis regarding this optional. Everybody, at least one point of the time when they start with this preparation, they think about this optional. Right? It's like a perennial question whether to take PubAd or not. So every aspirant who somewhere begins looking for humanities optional, he might never be always sure that, okay, I'll take this one only. Let's say 10%. Be very sure, no, I'll take this only. But out of all the people opting for humanities as an optional, out of 100 people, 70, 75 at least would ask a question. PubAd or something, right? So see, this is one very interesting idea that this is like the Amitabh Bachchan or the Shah Rukh Khan, or maybe as of now, I don't want to use the political names. But yes, it is perpetually one of the questions, Pabad or not. The famous Shakespearean dilemma, right? To be or not to be. That's a famous Shakespearean dilemma, right? So that is what public administration emerges to be, a dilemma. So we are trying to dispel, we are trying to overcome this dilemma for many of the new aspirants, right? This is what this video is about. It is not going to be very long. Fine, so let us first start with the very basic assumption that public administration, right, is a subject which requires more understanding, right? So a lot of people will tell you, oh, you want to take public administration, it requires a lot of analysis, lot of thinking, right? Lot of undercurrents, right? Let's use the word undercurrents, right? I know many of you are just beginners, or you might be just beginners, and you might not be able to or feel much comfortable with these terms, right? But except one thing, that the moment you start preparing for UPSC, you have to counter these ghosts. You cannot simply say I won't, right? Because you can. So you cannot say I won't. Yeah, you can agree to the fact that you can't. That may be one logical answer, but you cannot say I won't. Because eventually this is what is going to be your endeavor. What are you going to do? You are going to implement policies, right? And you are going to make policies. So you'll contribute or you'll make and you will implement. Both these arenas, both these endeavors are not simple. Policy is a very complex question when, let's say, you want to say that what happens if I don't get into civil services, then what will be my plan? My plan will be this. What if I don't like that once I start doing it midway, let's say around 40 or 45 years of age, I will not want to do it, then what will I do? Right? If I do so, then what will happen? If I quit that job, then I should be doing something else. Should I have savings so that I can pursue a new entrepreneurship? I can do something else. See, now these are the questions which are perpetual complex questions of a human life. All that is to be put in here when you're making this policy. So at the age of 25, 30, 35, you will have to ask all those questions probably which you will understand at the end of your life. That is what public policy is. Public policy is not simply the government making a decision or taking certain actions. It is about taking the decision, visualizing what will be the consequence of decision, and then having a course correction or an alternative path. So at the age of 25, 30, you are going to do this. You will have, right, in your hands, there will be the faith of 140 plus crore people. Do you think it's a small job? It's not. Right? So it is going to be that way. So the first thing that any student must answer, that why PubAd is like this. Because this is what public administration tells you about. This is what it is to be understood. When this is to be understood, can it be understood in a more simpler manner? Right? Can you think of uh, understanding the, let's say, for example, the development process without understanding the problems of the people? You cannot do that. You simply cannot say, I'll go and make a good developmental policy, but I do not know what are the problems of the communities, what are the different communities in India, what are the different regions in India, how I'm going to tackle all this. You cannot say that. So I would like to dispel this one, that if you say it requires more critical thinking, it is more thinking, it is more tough, it is nothing like that. Because this is what you want to do. This is why you are here in the process. So you are here in the process and you want to leave the central aspect of the process, right? That is so immature of you. Don't do that. Right? कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, right? So let them say. Fine, then. So public administration obviously requires thinking. That is what you should do. You are a human being, you should think. Right? It requires critical skills, right? Who better than Indians will have this skill, right? Indians are critical by birth. We criticize, right? So when I say critical, this is something that you have. The only thing is you have not explored. So how to fit this characteristic, right? Government is bad. Parents, more or less, are not bad, but still, problem with the parents, problem with the grandparents, problems with the neighbors, problems with the society, problems with the law enforcers, problem with friends, classmates, schools, curriculum, results, everything. Because we are nurtured in an environment where there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of restriction. We become critical. Use it. The problem is you are not able to use, you don't even know that you have that ability. Right? This has to be modified into an academic knowledge. Right? That is what we do. What are we here for? Why do you pay us? Right? Obviously, we have a job. We have a profession, right? To justify. Correct. So don't deny access to this beautiful subject just because you think it requires a lot of critical thinking, right? It requires multi-dimensional perspective. Yes, we all have multi-dimensional perspective. We all have. We are looking at the world around us and we see consequences of whatever is happening around, multiple consequences. Right? So you know what will happen if you eat junk food. Right? There's nothing new about it. What is new about it? Right? You'll spoil your health, overconsume, garbage will be created, garbage disposal will be a problem, right? The same problem will come back to you when it will rain, when it will be choked, when there will be no outlet, when there will be no sewage system, right? All comes back to you. So your consumer habits are going to create a lot of environmental issues. And obviously because you're living in the same society, in the same system, that all comes back to you. You know it, right? Is there something new to talk about? Nothing, right? So multi-dimensional, yes it is, and it has to be. Right. Then let us ask, okay, what exactly is the domain of the study? So many of you might be concerned about what is the domain of study, how do we go about it, right? So very briefly, just 5-7 minutes, right? Let's say, so you have very simply two papers. Fine, paper 1, paper 2. Both are 250 marks, right? You know that, 250 marks. Right. They will have almost, not almost, exactly 8 questions. 8 questions. Two parts, right? Part A, part B. Part A, right? Very basic. Let's talk about very basic. Part B. Fine. Out of this, question 1. So this will have 1 to 4, right? This will have question 5 to 8. Question 1 to 4, question 5 to 8. Right? Question 1, question 5, compulsory. Fine? And any 3 other question out of these 2 parts. So totally you have to do 5 questions. 2 are compulsory, so I will write 2 plus 3, right? Out of these 3 also, at least 1 should be chosen from either part. That means, right, at least 2 questions from one part. Say 2 plus 3. Now you see you have liberty. How much? Technically, you can choose out of 3 out of 6 questions. This gives you some relief. 3 out of 6 questions. Some relief is there. You feel good about it, right? You have choice. When you have choice, your preparation strategy comes with the idea that I can focus on certain things, certain topics, which are much more valued by the exam compared to the others. And every exam has this. Why it has? Because certain topics can be manipulated, creatively interpreted, they can be modified into good questions, and number of good questions that can give you year on year, over a period of time, new creative questions. So there are certain areas which can be over-exploited to give you more number of questions. Other areas you cannot exploit it to that extent. Fine. Regional parties, they can become very big, right? But obviously, they will remain regional parties. I'm not talking with reference to any outcome of the election, right? Simplified. So let's say it will not, or UPSC will not exploit certain areas because they do not have the exploitative ability. They do not have those, what you can say, explode areas. Most of these content, most of the scope of the content in those topics, they are more or less already exploited. So there are certain topics which will be exploited. Now see, it has 2 parts, 250 marks, right? Obviously, to top the exam, we need 52% marks. This is a very low scoring exam. So you can imagine that in a low scoring exam also, right, you are expecting at least 250 to 300 from your optional. And majority of the optional will give you around these marks only, right? Except technical optionals. For example, people say, oh, mathematics gave 323. Fine. But what about other areas? So you got, let's say, 292. Right? It gives 323. So what is the difference? Right? Almost 30 marks. Yes. But can you take up maths if you're from humanities background? You cannot. Can you take up engineering? You cannot. Right? Even engineers will take engineering. Quite doubtful. Many of them will not choose it. Fine. If they have, some of them have, not all of them. Some of them have an advantage, or that subject has an advantage of some people getting 30 marks more than you. Some people, not all of them. Right? Because this ratio in which you score more, the same ratio you score less also. Right? Still, this subject gives you lot of opportunity in several other dimensions. I'm not just talking about paper 204. I'm talking about essay, paper 2, paper 4. In general, because this subject makes you think. It makes you think. It does not discriminate that you think only when you're studying PubAd. It makes you think. So obviously you use that thinking, this ability in general studies as well. It's not discriminating, no, that your brain will work only when you study PubAd. That's not like that. Right? So it will give you a lot of advantages. If you want, you can increase your 10, right? 10 marks here. You stand a chance simply same. Get the same rank. Plus, this will have a lot of ease for you to understand this area. So it will reduce your effort also, technically. Right? This student will have to put a lot of effort here, and then again a lot of effort here also. So obviously his effort is much more than yours. Right? I'm talking about all the lazy people who do not want to put that much of effort, right? But still want to have the consequence. Fine. So let's say it has 2 parts, and you can multiply, you can use it. How you can use it? That is the methodology. That is wherein comes the importance of how you're going to study, how you take off, how you start off the preparation, right? The moment you start off the preparation by merely mugging a mundane, static, right, a more unuseful, monopolistic syllabus that has been designed by the UPSC, that very moment you deny the chances of scoring better in other areas. Why? Because you are simply focusing on knowing the facts of the syllabus, right? But you're not going to understand the undercurrents of the syllabus. Now, that is how you may start. Well begin is half done. So the moment you start that way, you lose a lot of things, right? So you have to avoid that. Obviously, as a 20-year-old or 21-year-old, you may not have that ability to explore all the possible orientations of studying something, right? But obviously, as a student, you might have done this while you are giving your 10th board or 12th board or your university examinations. At least you see the question papers. At least you try to find out, okay, exactly something is making sense to you or not. You simply would not have tried to mug up everything. I know many of you might have. But then you have to understand that I have to come out of that everything mugging up aspect, right? To something mugging up and majority understanding, right? This aspect you have to come to that perspective. Why? Because this is the competition you're going to appear for. So it's a competitive exam. And a lot of things which you have been doing till now, you have to leave them. Right? If not, then obviously, if you want to do the same things which you have been doing, then obviously it's more or less you will be there where you are right now. So you want to travel to the destination that you want, you need to take a new bus, you need to take a new train, you need to take a new ticket, right? You need to manage your journey. You simply cannot say where I am, I will be the same. That cannot happen. You need to change. So obviously, these two papers are there, right? Obviously, the scope of the entire study of POBAT, entire study, paper one, paper two, whatever you're doing, can be divided into four, right? Which I say the quadrants. These are the quadrants. Let's make it on a different page. Let's say these are the quadrants. What are the quadrants? Basic thing, most basic thing is what? The vocab. We have to understand the nature of the content, scope of the content, and why this particular term has been used there. You will find the same terms used in paper 1, paper 2, POBAT. Many of the terms you will find same terms in GS paper 2, GS paper 4, in GS paper 1, GS paper 3, disaster management, things related to environmental governance, right? Budgetary process, financial management. You'll find similar things, right? Indian society, globalization and the impact on Indian society. Right? Post World War II scenario. A lot of things will be overlapping, right? Governance, social justice, polity and constitution, probity in governance, administrative ethics, administrative or public service values, paper 4. So you find a lot of things similar, right? But how does that same term, make sense somewhere in a different way, and how does the same term make sense somewhere else in a different manner? Vocabulary. Very important. Fine. Second, right? Okay. Which I will use the word concept. You have to understand underlying assumptions, underlying principles of many things. For example, you say Indian society is patriarchal society. So what is patriarchy? Define patriarchy. Understand patriarchy. Do you have any framework to understand it better? Is one framework better than the other framework? So you may have multiple frameworks to understand what is there, what has been defined there, and how you're going to apply this. Simple. So this theory deals with the entire gamut, the entire framework, the entire perspective of what administration is. If you understand this, you actually know everything about what administration is about, how to understand administration, what to interpret, or what to think of the term administration itself. You understand it? Fine. So theory or concept? Yes. Then third quadrant talks about simply the content, or I would say the description. So when you understand the logic of something, the concept of something, the theoretical logic behind it, what do you do now? You try to elaborate it. Oh, this is what the basis of patriarchy is. Okay, what are the features of patriarchy? What are the attributes of patriarchy? What are the positives of patriarchy? What are the negatives of patriarchy? Obviously, many of you not feel that there are certain positives of patriarchy, but there are certain positives. Description. Fine. And then, this is the most important one. This talks about the critical analysis. Fine. So, you know, a lot of people are there who ask questions, right? You tell them something, they'll say, sir, so what? After this, what? What if something happens? Right? What if I get the UPSC paper before the exam? Will I be able to solve it? No, you'll not be able to. Unless you study properly, obviously. Fine? What if I don't get through this time? What if I just reach the interview? So there are people who are what if, what if, what if. Right? So this is that irritating part, right? What if? So here critical analysis means that when you understand everything, now what do? You try to now apply it. You try to now review it. You try to think about it, what is happening around you. So all the terms that you say, interlinkage, किस phase में होगा, इस phase में होगा. Obviously, without going through this phase, you cannot reach here, no? You cannot directly start interlinking, right? Fine, so interlinkage, nuances, hidden things. जो visible है पहले वो पता चले. First we know that what is there, right? Then we'll talk about what is not there or what is hidden. So nuances. Fine. Paper 1 plus paper 2 overlap, shadowing, fine. Impact, association, distinctiveness. That you'll come to know here. Fine. Then some are too obsessed with current aspects, current affairs of PubAd, right? As if the UPSC is giving separately the current affairs for PubAd, right? Or as if the newspaper has a separate section, current affairs for optionals. It is not so, right? It's not that complicated as you think it is. Now, this is a quadrant. This is a quadrant strategy. If you divide your content, right? Your paper 1 has around 12 units and paper 2 has 14 units. Like we have already said many times, this can be broken down. These are 26. They can be simplified into roughly 19, 20 units or topics to say, distinct topics, right? Take this syllabus, take the question paper. Obviously, you'll not be able to understand in the beginning, but fine. You take the syllabus, start breaking it into these 4 parts in a sequence, obviously. 1, right? 2, 3, fine, 4. You start breaking them into parts, you'll start making sense. So many of the students had asked, what is the method? What is the strategy? How do we study, right? How do we orient ourselves? Orient this way, right? Next session, we'll talk about the resources for public administration and what is it that makes the paper 1, paper 2 distinct or maybe common across them? What are the themes which run parallel to them? What are the themes which run between them, within them, right? So we'll talk about those things in the next session. This was brief analysis of how to interpret PubAd and why to think PubAd is not that bad as an optional. It is it is scoring well. It is giving you a lot of perspectives into various other domains. People will question your decisions. People will doubt your decisions. But the important thing, the most important thing is, do you think that you are capable or not? Right? If you are capable, it is obvious that we will make you so capable that all the doubts that you have will vanish. The only thing is that are you able to dedicate, are you able to give probably much more than what you expect out of yourselves? So, are you willing to do or go that extra mile? If you are, you can reap numerous benefits from this optional, right? There is obviously no other optional which can compare to this. This is the king of optionals. Fine. But how effectively we are going to use it, that is up to you. Fine. So definitely, right? Always have a rational and logical mind while you are taking suggestions or making decisions regarding this exam. It is going to be a long term process. It is not that easy. It is not a quick bite. It is not a shortcut. So, obviously, think, right? Analyze, evaluate, understand pros and cons, right? Use this elaborate analysis to make the choice. Ultimately, choice is yours. The consequences have to be yours. See you then. Thank you so much for your time. All the best.